Okay, so let's come back to the another session of the lecture. Here, basically, I'm going to discuss. Okay, yeah. So basically, we are going to start formally. That is quantum mechanics, and you'll have a dedicated course of quantum mechanics, at least for the physics student, and other students who are interested, they can take it. Quantum mechanics roughly would be, I think, three different courses. Quantum mechanics 1, where basically you will end up till hydrogen atom, treatment of hydrogen with Schrodinger equation. Quantum mechanics 2 will probably learn about variational principle, approximate method in quantum mechanics, perturbative quantum mechanics, and scattering theory. And quantum mechanics 3 will deal with relativistic quantum mechanics, Dirac equation, and other things. It's very interesting whatever you do in physics department. Uh, after classical electrodynamics and classical mechanics is all quantum mechanics. So the subject may have name nuclear physics, but actually is quantum mechanics. The subject may have name condensed matter physics, but is also quantum mechanics. So most of the thing that you will study is basically quantum. So and so it is very interesting, and we should pay attention to this if you want to pursue physics. And I'm not very sure. Actually, there is one more course. Probably the CS department will float. It's quantum computing. And that is very very interesting. You should have quantum mechanics background before you attend that course. So without wasting further knowledge, further time. Let's get into this. I'll recommend Bransden and Juachen for this part of the quantum mechanics. So you can read any other books like J.J. Sakurai or something, but Bransden and Juachen is very simple, and it deals with wave function formalism, so it is very easy to catch. J.J. Sakurai is also a very good book, but it deals with bracket notation. Maybe for first timer it could be little difficult, but I can tell you what I did. I first read Bransden Juachen. I solved all the problem Bransden Juachen. Then I solved all the problem J.J. Sakurai, and I realized that for J.J. Sakurai I did not need any kind of other practice. So I think Bransden Juachen is a very good book to start with. And yeah, so remember this modern physics course, the quantum mechanics would be very brief overall idea about quantum mechanics, but I try to go to little deep whatever is possible. But there is a dedicated quantum mechanics course, so do not think that this is just a quantum mechanics. No. So let's start. So we saw Young's double slit experiment, and we saw the nature of the particle which behaves like wave, and then we saw uncertainty in the measurement. If you try to measure some system, it collapses to the eigenstate, but in principle any state could be superposition of all the states. So things are with probability and things like that. So the advent of quantum mechanics, actually there was no quantum mechanics, it was quantum theory. Even if you see de Broglie's wavelength hypothesis, Heisenberg uncertainty principle, they're not well formulated. So it was I think Schrodinger who first tried to formulate in a kind of equation of motion, like in the previous lecture I talked about Euler-Lagrange equation, that actually is the mother of all the equations in classical mechanics. Similarly, Schrodinger equation, which actually can also be derived from the same principle. But let's not go into that detail. And but it is also mother equation of the quantum system. So if you have the quantum system, if you claim that you know the quantum system, that means you know how to write the Schrodinger equation, and it deals with basically the total Hamiltonian of the system. That means the total Hamiltonian means that basically so Hamiltonian is basically the kinetic energy T, and then there is potential energy V. And you remember in quantum mechanics everything is operators, we put a hat on it. So these are operators. So these operator, and you operate this on some state phi, and this state could be in general any superposition state. So let me just write it down the dots here. So that will let's say phi can be expressed in terms of all possible eigenstates. This is superposition state. So then you put this operator here, and then this will operate here, and then you get Ci, and maybe when it operates on psi I, it gives you energy I. So this is how basically you can evaluate the system. If it is just eigenstate, let's say you know the eigenstate, so H psi is the eigenstate, then it is eigenvalue equation that you learn in high school. So this is a specific energy. But if it's not eigenvalue equation, then the state should be decomposed into eigenstates, and then you can get a relation like this. So before going further detail, let's try to understand the postulates of quantum mechanics. There is a subject called the foundation of quantum mechanics, where people try to derive or some principle they want to motivate, or some kind of they want to prove these postulates. So that is a different subject altogether. But let's try to see. So any quantum system is described by psi. And I remember we had a friend in my school, I mean not school basically, but yeah, my student, we have a student whose name was Sai, and I think that was the first Sai name I encountered. So I thought, and I think he used to put a t-shirt also with a Sai, but later on I realized there's SAI, and this Sai is PSI. So anyway, jokes apart, psi is basically the full description of the quantum system. So if you know the psi, you know almost everything. But the problem with psi that you cannot know it completely. I'll come back to that a little later. So what I meant by that is that psi is not a measurable quantity. You can describe a quantum system by its wave function psi. It can be the eigenstate, but eigenstates are not fully deterministic. Let's say you multiply this psi by a constant c, it does not change anything. You can define psi prime equal to c times psi, and that is also equivalent to psi. An eigenvalue equation will still hold. So that means any wave function is undetermined up to a constant, and that could be phase, that could be amplitude. You can normalize the amplitude, but you cannot determine the phase. So psi is not a physical observable, and that is very important in quantum mechanics to understand what is observable. What is observable means what you can measure. And the thing that people talk about is that the observables are basically related to something called psi star psi, which is probability density, and this density makes sense. This is a probability density. So let's say if you ask that what is the probability of a gear lion to be in this classroom, sorry, this classroom is virtual, but let's assume that that is also a possibility, and ideally the probability is non-zero, because how do you calculate a gear lion to be found in IIT Hyderabad? You have to integrate the whole space, and before doing the integration you have no knowledge, and there is certain probability which might be zero, but there is some probability. So the probability of IIT Hyderabad of finding a lion is zero, but the probability of finding a lion in Gir forest is non-zero. So that means the density changes with space and time, and this is why that is like a most important thing in quantum mechanics, because in quantum mechanics you talk about average value, not certain value, because nothing is deterministic. Everything comes with the probability, and you sum with all such probabilities to give you an average value. So first postulate is that the psi is the wave function which describes the quantum system, but it's not a physical observable. The observable is the probability density or related stuff. And this is the first postulate. The second postulate that this wave function should be single valued and continuous. So if you are describing the wave like this and this and this is perfectly fine, but you describe something like this mod x, and then it is not continuous. And let's say if you give something where you have let's say you have where should I draw it here? So let's say you draw a wave function, this is, let's say, x, and you draw a wave function which is like this. So in the single x, the wave function has two different values. That is also not allowed. So it should be single valued. It should be continuous. There should be no break. These are two, and these are very important because you see, I mean, let's say two particle, let's say one particle, let's say an electron is going. I mean, I probably asked this at some point in exercise. An electron will radiate a photon, which is a light, and go back to an electron. These phenomena, though it can happen with some potential, these phenomena cannot be explained in quantum mechanics, because in quantum mechanics, if you describe this electron by a wave function and this by wave function at this value, this wave function can have three different values, which is not true. This is not single value. So quantum mechanics cannot describe a particle that is decaying or annihilating. So let's say any kind of quantum collision, which is called the scattering, like this kind of phenomena cannot be explained by quantum mechanics. And then you may be thinking that then why it is so popular and why it is so helpful. For that, you have to really go through the quantum mechanics course. But quantum mechanics started with a basic assumption that whatever you describe should be described by a single valued wave function psi, and that describes your system. That is very, very important. So when you solve an hydrogen atom, quantum mechanics does not see it as a hydrogen atom. It just sees it as a wave function, and it has different probability, different energy levels. That are things. So there are finer details, but it's just a wave function. If your name is A and your other name is B, for me A and B, if I divide quantum description, you guys are just wave function, nothing more. So and the total probability has to be conserved, because the probability has to be conserved, otherwise the particle would be created or annihilated. So the conservation of, I mean, number density tells you that this should be conserved. And I put some list. In classical mechanics, there exist linear Hermitian operators, and the observables are real. That corresponds to the Hermitian operator. So let me try to explain a bit. This is similar to what I discussed here. So let's say you have an operator. So what is operator? I mean, naively you can think operator is just an experiment, and this is your experimental setup, and this is the outcome or result, that is the eigenvalue, and again you have the setup. Let's say you are doing an optics experiment, you are measuring something. If your measurement is such that the whole equipment is disrupted, then it is not a measurement, right? This is just a horror movie. You cannot just disrupt the system. And this is why if you want to measure the, let's say, the wavelength of certain sample, and you put the setup such a way that at the end of the experiment you can take out the sample and the equipment will be go back to the same position. So every experiment that you do in nature, it should be H psi equal to E psi or some operator. So let me write it generically. It should be A cap psi. I write a small value of A and psi. So this is a measurement, and you, as I told you, that measurement basically if you put in superposition state, it will put an eigenvalue, only one of them. This is the eigenvalue equation, so there is no superposition state here, and this is the result. And these results actually basically the outcome which you can measure experimentally. So operators in quantum mechanics are nothing but experiments in practical sense, and everything that you learned so far before this lecture were just a real number or functions, but in quantum mechanics, if they are sitting left of the wave function, they are all operators. So I put a list. So position in classical mechanics is just a parameter, but in quantum mechanics it becomes r cap is an operator. So when you apply r cap on psi, you get r and psi. So this is the outcome and this is the operator. You have to measure it. Similarly, the momentum become p cap, kinetic energy T cap, and potential energy V cap, and total energy H cap, and then angular momentum. So there are, and I put the operator descriptions how you can mathematically operate. So if you want to determine the expectation value of the position, you multiply by r, and the other functions are also given. So these are basically the classical to quantum correspondence. And here I already explained that when you do a measurement, this A psi, A capital psi should satisfy this equation of motion. And again, if you are trying to do this on this phi, so let's say A, I already described this, but let me do it again. You apply on the phi, but phi is superposition of psi, so basically I, Ci, and then A cap psi I, and this is the eigenvalue equation. So this eigenvalue equation will give you Ci, Ai, psi I. If the phi I, so basically phi I will not come out of it because phi is not an eigenvalue but eigenstate. So but if psi is there, then it will come out. So but you can still if you just you can still calculate the average value by multiplying with phi star and integrating over all space. So basically average value of an operator A gives you the expectation value, and which I explain little more detail here. So let's say you want to calculate the expectation value of an operator, which could be energy, which could be position, which could be angular momentum. Then you have to multiply it with the probability density. So that means what is the probability of occurrence of that operator, and then you just multiply with the operator and then you integrate over all space time. Now this rho is the probability density, is basically psi star psi, and this is local in space and time. So if you evaluate an x, this is also in x. You substitute it here and then it becomes psi star A psi and dx. This outcome will basically the average value, and if you have only one eigenfunction, then this is psi. If you have like a situation of equation 13, then you have to, for equation 13 you have to do like this: phi A cap phi, which means integration phi star A phi dx, and then you have two summations I and j, and then you have Ci Cj, so Ci Cj psi, let's say j star psi I star, and then you have in between you have A and dx, and then this will give you both the summation, then Ci Cj, and then small a ai, and then this will you have to integrate g and I dx. So this is how you have to calculate. So ultimately it is the probability density that matters. I gave two small examples. So let's say we want to evaluate the expectation value of the position coordinate, and the expectation value of the position coordinate can be described as psi star x psi dx. You have to integrate with all. And expectation value of the momentum is an operator which is I is called del del x. I will come back to this again. Here I have written it. For 3 momentum you have these components. I will come back to that in little later in little detail again, so don't worry about it. But if you evaluate, then you have to, this operator will act on this wave function on the right, and then you calculate it, and that will be the value that is given. So I mean this is so far about the postulates of the quantum mechanics. Of course, you have, if you have missed certain postulates, or if you have problem in understanding, you can ask in the tutorial session, or don't panic, you have a quantum mechanics course separately. And another thing is that I will go through the boundary value problems of at least three boundary value problems I will do. So these things will be clearer, and I have given enough exercise also. So I'll do, if you do it by hand, then you realize what I'm saying, and you can always come back to me. So let me stop here, and free particle maybe I'll upload separately because this file size is quite long. So let me stop here.